Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is Sarah Smith, and you're listening to Raw Intentions. All right, welcome back to the podcast. I've got a little different view behind me today. These are all actually pictures of myself if you're watching us on YouTube, which we are now finally fully live on. Woohoo, so exciting. But I'm in Denver for the week. I'm doing some work here, visiting friends, and then I'm off for 6 weeks, traveling around for weddings, bachelorettes, all the things. Before I get ahead of myself, though, you're probably listening, wondering who the heck I am, or maybe you're a return listener. Regardless, we're going to do what we always do. We're going to go into my little elevator pitch and tell you a little more about me. So, just in case this is your first time listening, my name, like I said in the intro, is Sarah Smith. That's Sarah with an H, Smith with a Y. I am 29 years old, from Madison, Alabama, and currently living in Breckenridge, Colorado, which is a little ski town like an hour and a half from Denver. So, I don't actually live here currently, but I used to. In college, which I went to college at Auburn, I started a little jewelry side hustle where I was making necklaces out of my college apartment, and it slowly snowballed and turned into a full-blown business, brand, all the things. It's still my full-time job to this day. It's called Raw and Rebellious. That's at raw_rebellious. If you don't follow us on Instagram, you definitely should. It's my baby, my pride and joy. But I started as just jewelry. This had to be like 8 years ago now. And now I do all kinds of things. We do apparel, we do hats, we do prints, we do jewelry, we do collaborations, all kinds of stuff. And it's definitely turned into more of a lifestyle brand than just a business. And the community aspect, which is definitely the thing that feels the most special to me, is kind of the reason that I started this podcast. So I started Raw Intentions. That's at Raw Intentions Podcast on Instagram almost 2 years ago, which is wild. Definitely outside of, getting to interact with our community and with our audience, my favorite thing about having this podcast is having guests on, getting to get to know people either that I am friends with in my personal life or people that I just admire from afar. It's always so much fun to let my curiosity run wild and ask a million questions and just give people a platform to speak their truth and tell their story. So that leads us to our guest this week. This week, we have a dear friend of mine, Grace Donner, on the podcast. Grace is a Minnesota native. She lives in Aspen currently, went to Boulder. She's got a whole laundry list of accolades, and I'll let her tell her story instead of me. She was someone that I admired from afar. She's a huge influencer, content creator, and we became friends last year. We went rock climbing together, and the rest is history. We did a really cool collaboration with some merch this ski season. She's a huge skier, and like I said, she lives in Aspen, so that's pretty much her life, as it is mine in Breckenridge. And we did a couple hoodies, a couple hats, and that was really fun getting to get creative together, do events together, do fun photo shoots together, and call it work. But I've truly loved getting to know Grace, being in her life, and getting to call her a friend. She's so inspiring, so hardworking. And it was fun getting to ask her all these questions and hear more details about her story and how she's gotten to where she has. She shares so much advice about content creation, TikTok, Instagram, growing your platform, monetizing, ways to do it and ways not to do it, and just advice on things that she's learned along the way. I mean, she has a cult following on TikTok and Instagram and all the things for a reason. She's absolutely incredible. And like I said, I feel very lucky to call her a friend. So I'll shut up and let Grace tell her story. So without further ado, let's welcome Grace Donner to the podcast. Let's get started. I would love before we dive into all the deets, for you to give a little intro on who you are, where you're from, your little elevator pitch, and tell our audience and yours who Grace Donner is.
Okay, perfect. Yay! I am originally from Minnesota. Shout out, born and raised. I grew up, okay, this is kind of weird, but I grew up in like a log house in the middle of the woods there. And I feel like that helps like me make a lot more sense to people. But
I didn't know that.
you didn't know that? You have to come sometime. It's like I drove like 25 minutes to get to school, and I didn't grow up with we didn't have like TV or like cable, so I like don't know most like pop culture TV references. I think I got Netflix like my senior year, so I finally was like I had to watch TV. We had like the TV with the antenna, so you could watch like black and white channels or like blurry news channels. But
So
it just made me.
You had this your entire until you went to college. That's where you lived.
Yeah. Yeah, I lived in the one house my entire life. But, like, we would watch movies. You could rent, like, Blockbuster
Yeah,
stuff. But he
totally.
honestly just got me and my sister to go outside all the time. Like my whole
Mm.
childhood was spent outside. There's like we lived on a lake, and my dad raised us to go hunting and skiing and camping and all that. And like our family vacations were like to national parks and stuff. So yeah. And yeah, so I grew up ski racing. I started skiing when I was 2, and then I started racing when I was 6. And then I chose to go to Boulder to continue ski racing in college, but like a cooler place than the tiny little hills in Minnesota. And I went to Boulder for accounting. Actually, I got my master's in accounting. And then I did a consulting job right after school, and I hated it. I lived in Denver, and I hated that as well. And then I got laid off. But woo! Yay, layoffs! And it was actually so fabulous because I had been doing social media for, I don't know, since high school, but then like really pursuing it in college, but kind of as like a side hustle, passion project. Not a side hustle. It was just for fun. But then when I got laid off, I was like, all right, you should try this out because, well, you don't have another job. So, and then I met Cooper, my boyfriend, when I was in grad school. And then after he graduated, we moved to his hometown. So now I live in Aspen, and we just moved in together. This is our new home.
Yay!
We're in one little studio together. So we're gonna get really annoyed with each other. I'm just kidding. No, it's actually been so fun so far. But yeah, that's a long bit about me, I guess.
Well, I have so many questions already. And it's funny because, like, I mean, Grace and I know each other pretty well. We've rock climbed together. We launched a whole clothing collab together. We've had some very silly times. So I feel like I know you. But now I have like so many questions for you. And it's like a fun excuse because we're on the podcast and I just get to ask anything I want.
You literally just learned something new already.
I know. My
I
little
didn't
wilderness
know.
child, which I mean,
Oh,
nothing about that shocks me. And it is funny knowing that backstory about you because you are such a nature outdoorsy girl. I mean, obviously one of the sickest skiers ever and just a lover of the outdoors. So it makes sense. But yeah, no, I've never been to Minnesota, so I don't really know it very well, but that's such a cool childhood. I mean, I think for me growing up, my mom was so against us with screens. Like we had a computer and we had a TV. I grew up in Alabama, so had a pretty, I guess, normal Southern upbringing. But my mom would like make up these like holidays where it'd be like turn off TV week and like we couldn't have our phones and TV and like we could only watch screens or be on the computer total combined for an hour a day. Like she was always just literally pushing my younger brother and I like outside and locking us out and forcing us to play because we had like a really woodsy backyard and my parents are super outdoorsy, but I wasn't growing up. Like we would have been a ski family, but I bitched so hard on our first ski trip when I was like 10 that we never went again. Like,
and look at you now.
and look at me now. My mom's like, you are living, because even when I decided to go to Auburn, she was like, you should go look at Boulder. And I was like, no, I want to stay in the South. Like, I don't know why I'm living her dream life. Like, she loves Colorado, loves it out here. So my parents are very much the same. I think I just resisted a little more than you. But did your parents have like a ski background? Were they super outdoorsy as well? Like, how did y'all end up kind of living? Because it is a bit of an alternative, lifestyle.
Yeah. Okay, I feel like it sounds a lot more alternative than it actually is. Like, I don't
Oh.
know.
No, I mean, but it kind of is. I mean, it's not like you grew up in, like, the 1980s not
Yeah.
having that you know what I mean? Like, having, like, less technology and stuff. Obviously, like, there's people that live in vans and, live totally off the grid. I'm not saying that you did that, but I'm still saying,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
that is a bit different than, like, how a
It
lot of us
was
probably grew up.
Yeah, it was a bit different. I honestly, like, didn't really think much of it
Yeah.
until I left. But my dad grew up in Minnesota, and he grew up ski racing.
Oh.
Well, he did it in okay, funny story. He did it in high school because he wanted to. He's one of 6 kids in his family. And so he had to like pay for the whole thing because like they didn't have a ton of money to hand out to every, you know, child. So he did it, and then my grandma came to one of my sister and I's ski races, and she turned to my dad. She's like, "John, why didn't you ever do this?" And he's like, I literally did this my whole life.
What do you
So
mean?
but yeah, so he grew up doing it, and that's how we got into it. My mom, she grew up in Boston, and they met at in Rochester, New York, at college. He was in grad school. She was in undergrad. And then they eventually moved to Minnesota because jobs were just better there when they got married. I don't know how they made the decision because they lived in the city, so I don't know how they made the decision to like move. Well, we actually lived where he grew up. Like they moved back to his
Okay.
hometown. And then they built their dream house. I don't feel like they had to encourage us to go outside. Maybe I'm wrong. I have a terrible memory. But I feel like just not having the like good TV just made us want to go outside. Like
You're like,
I
what
don't
else
think
do we do?
yeah, like I think I just like loved doing all those things. They provided us with so many other options that I don't know. And I don't really remember them having conversations with us about like get off your computer or whatever. I don't
Hmm.
know.
So do you think Colorado and Boulder, do you think that was on your radar because you were in like the ski world and into ski racing?
Kind of. We would go to Vail and stay with a family friend for spring break every year. Like my home my home hill in Minnesota was owned by Epic. So my past worked at Vail. So we stayed with this family friend. And I was like, oh my God, like I need to live here and I can like go to school like out here and just ski race here instead of ski racing in the Midwest. Like that's so much better. And one of the girls on my club ski team also went to Boulder. So I ended up going out to Boulder and staying with her. And I just fell in love with the school. I was like, oh my God, I literally will not go anywhere else.
And how was Boulder? Like what is it like going to college there? Because I feel like it's an alternate universe. I went to an SEC school, which I feel like was a very different experience.
Very different. I actually went to an SEC football game and it was so much fun, but I was like, this is a completely different world. Like, what is
Totally
going on?
different.
We just like, we didn't have the tailgating like you guys do. Or
Yeah.
like you did at the frat parties and then you wouldn't make it to the game.
Yeah, like no one really goes to the games.
No, and I did my senior year because we were friends with some of the football team. I had some friends dating some of them. So we'd go to like cheer them on. But like before that, I would like get too drunk and then like not make it to the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I love Boulder. It's so awesome. It's like I think it has something for everybody because you have the access to the outdoors and like the
Mm.
type of people that want to go do those things. But then it also has fraternities and sororities and football. And it also like depending on what crowd you surround yourself with, there are academically good students there. I feel like it just honestly had a touch of everything. Like it was in the town is cool too. I went to grad school there as well. And I feel like I got to know the town better that year because I wasn't like hanging out with the students as much, I guess, or
Yeah.
like on campus as much. And it's just such a cool place. The people are like so cool. They're quite a variety in the type of people that live there. And there's always something to do. I don't know. I loved it. It was great.
Well, I feel like that experience for me, like even though I didn't go to Boulder, moving out to Denver before I moved to Breckenridge, it was the first time I'd experienced being surrounded by people that prioritize like doing things outside, experiencing life versus like, I mean, we would still go out and drink and do stuff, but then we'd wake up in the morning and go ski, or we would like be passing like a whiskey handle around a campfire. It's like we're still like outdoors a lot of the time. Like we did drugs, but it was like outside.
so so that made it an activity.
So it's different. Yeah, exactly. But no, I found that, like, so refreshing, and I was talking to one of my roommates, Courtney, who I think you've met briefly, the Maddie squared, that you get confused, and a lot of blondes, and she was just saying how refreshing it is, and I've never thought about this, like, because she's from the Southeast as well, and when I lived in Atlanta, you didn't really do much other than, like, you go on, like, walks and, like, sure, you'd be active, but you're mostly, like, going to brunch, going to breweries, like, planning things around drinking and like going to nice restaurants. And she was like, it's so nice here because it like I'm not the one that's having to perpetuate like trying to drag people outside. It's like everyone is always like if my roommates have a break, like an hour break in between meetings or something, they're like, "Hey, does anyone want to go ski? I'm going to go take a couple laps." You know, it's like everyone's always inconveniencing themselves to do those things. So I'm sure going to college surrounded by those people and that was already kind of your way of life just like reaffirmed that for you.
Yeah, it was so fun. I also joined the club ski racing team there.
Oh, nice.
Mostly, I mean, to ski race, but also it was just like an easy way to meet other people that like doing the same thing
Mhm.
as me. And like the racing was fun for like the first year, but then the second year I was like, all right, we're here for like to go vibe in the
Yeah.
mountains.
We are here.
Yeah, we're here to like, yeah, not ski race. But yeah, no, I totally agree about that. Wait, so in the South, like, wait, first of all, did you have an accent?
Kind of.
Really?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I literally dated like the most redneck of all rednecks in like high school and college. Like literally the most redneck person you can physically imagine is like who I dated. And so I think when I grew up there, because I grew up in Huntsville, Alabama, so a lot of people, it was a little bit more of a melting pot because there's a lot of like engineering stuff there. So a lot of people moved there from different places, but it was still like very much like podunk Southern. We just did field parties all the time and like smoked Black and
Totally.
Milds and drank Four Locos because there was like nothing else to do. And so I definitely had an accent, and you can hear it in like the old like when IGTVs first came out, that's when I started like talking on stories and doing stuff like that. You can hear it more so than I could send them to you after this, but yeah, I definitely had an
Yes.
accent. And if I get pulled over or something like by a cop, I get really southern. I'm just like, "Sir, I'm so sorry. I didn't know."
Is that
Like,
like a tactic you use?
yeah, just to like be like a little innocent girl.
Yeah, I feel like the South, well, Southeast, or maybe the South, is similar to the Midwest in that sense. Like, I feel like a lot of my friends that went to school in the Midwest, like a lot of I don't know, there wasn't as much variety in what you could do. And like a lot of their activities were just partying because like there wasn't as much to do.
Yeah, I don't think I'd be able to live somewhere because I was a little nervous moving to Colorado because of the cold. Because I mean, being from Alabama, like our winters were like nothing. But once I fell in love with skiing and I had a reason for the cold, and also like it doesn't get that cold here. Like
It's so sunny.
it's so sunny, especially I mean, Denver does not get cold. Like Denver is fine. And even in the mountains, like it's so sunny and it's like dry cold. Like I was so used to the humidity in the South. So I don't feel like it's as bad. But because I have something to do, like I don't think I could ever live in like a Chicago where it's just like there's literally nothing to do and it's so cold and you're just like depressed. Like I think then I would be depressed. But I love the winter now.
I know it's so much fun.
It's so fun. So with ski racing and stuff, growing up doing that and then coming to college, and then I'm sure you started I mean, I'm sure you skied socially and normally growing up too, but being in that kind of pocket of skiing, did you feel like a huge difference when you just started like more skiing for fun and not competing anymore? Because I mean, it's like a
Yes.
different technique and like a whole different mindset, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. I actually feel like I have so much to say about this. So I actually didn't do a ton of free skiing early on in my life
Okay.
because in Minnesota the hills are so small. It takes like 30 seconds to get down. Like yeah, and it's like 5 minutes sure left up, like 30 seconds down. Like that's it. So it's I mean, some people do go skiing for fun, but most of the time you're either you learn to be really good at the park or you're ski racing. So I honestly only raced like my whole life until let's see, the last year I did college ski racing was my sophomore year. Then my junior year I studied abroad. And then senior year was still kind of lingering COVID. So I joined the team and then they ended up canceling it. So then I just started like finding new friends to ski with, and I really feel like I like re-fell in love with the sport because I was like honestly I was burning out like junior senior year of high school, and then in college it was a way for me to make friends that like doing the same things as me. But senior year, I was like, oh my God, like there's so much more to this sport that I have not been experiencing. And I also, when I moved to Colorado, I had to relearn the way I skied, especially free skiing. Like it is completely different than racing on ice and like skinny race skis. Like it's just a whole new sport, truly. So it was fun to like, I don't know, challenge myself and learn something new almost. But yeah, it's so much more fun now. Like you can just do anything. You don't have to like you're doing the same damn course over and over and over.
Yeah, no, I mean, and like you said, it's not like a competition. You're not just like racing to the bottom. You're like, doing fun features, taking fun tree runs, like looking around at the views and at nature and enjoying powder. And, there's just so many different aspects of it.
Yeah, it's so much more playful now. It's like a fun activity to do instead of, you know, a grind. I feel like a lot of like high school and college athletes go through that.
No, I'm sure. And I'm sure it's an identity shift too. I was talking to a friend about that was a college athlete and kind of, grew up playing sports. Like that mental switch too of like finding a new identity outside of the sport when it's something that you've been in for so long.
Luckily, TikTok had my back, so I just kept it my identity.
Totally.
Yeah, just loved it in
TikTok
everybody's
group.
faces. That's all that I do.
Yeah, so let's talk about TikTok influencing all that stuff. So you said you did social media kind of for fun through high school and college. So what do you mean by that? Like, what does that look like? What mediums were you on? How did you even get into it?
Yeah, so in high school, growing up, I was always really into photography. Like even before I had like my own phone or camera, I would take my mom's iPhone and go take pictures of like the flowers that she was growing in her garden as like a child. And when I started working, I saved up to get my own nice DSLR and I started taking senior photos for people at my high school.
Oh.
And I was posting that on like a photography account, but also I love taking photos with my friends. Like we just go have like little photo shoots and whatnot. So I was doing Instagram for fun through that. And then when I went to Boulder, kept doing it, which I started to kind of pick up a following at Boulder because I was doing very like Pinterest searchable things. Like me and my friends would be on like if you looked up like Boulder game day, like our outfits would be on, or like us at a party would be on there because it would be like outfit inspo or something. And like I was in a sorority, so it was like just very photographable. So I was doing the gram. And then semester at C's where I studied abroad, and that was also like great for growing a following. And I started TikTok. Well, I started it with a friend before I went on semester at C, but you didn't really have service on semester at C. I don't know how those girls that do like semester at C TikTok are doing it because I'm like, I was not on my phone. Like,
yeah.
The only time I would be really on it, like on social media, like in the middle of the night, I would sneak up to the top floor where there was like the best service to like post my Instagram at the right time that it was like in the US because we were in like Asia and I was like, okay, it's opposite.
Yeah.
I'd like set my alarm for like 4 a.m. like I'm
dedication.
Yeah, it was a crash. I was so dedicated. I don't know how those girls are doing it now, but I started my own TikTok in quarantine. Like I feel like a lot of people did. I was doing those silly little dances that everybody was doing, but I feel like toward like senior year in grad school, I started taking it a tiny bit more serious, like TikTok, and kind of posting more videos that related to like skiing or outdoors or just like anything I was doing really. And then when I graduated and I was like, oh my God, I have to start a corporate job soon. Like this sucks. I was like, you need to take this so seriously because I do not want to be doing that corporate job for long. So I would like, when I started working, I would batch videos for TikTok on the weekends. So I'd made sure I had at least 5 videos so that I could post once a day during the week, throughout the week. And then that kind of just set me up for when I got laid off. And then I was like, okay, you need to hit this hard, girl.
Hit that TikTok hard. So when were you thinking strategically? Because like, planning out and posting once a day is like, that's you being strategic about it and kind of setting yourself up and setting like goals with social media. So, and when did you start like monetizing and doing any kind of like influencing?
The first time I ever got paid was 2020 quarantine. I got my first paid sponsorship was from Reebok. I used to work
Oh,
with a ton. So yeah, and it was like pretty small, but I was like, "Oh my god, like I cannot even believe that like this is a thing." Cuz I always did it for fun. Like I was like I just like taking photos and I like taking videos and editing and like I just wanted to share it. I at first it wasn't like, "Oh, how can I make money?" And then I found out you can make money. So that was a bonus. I think in grad school I started being a little bit more strategic with it and setting goals for myself just because I wanted to see a difference in what I was doing.
mm-hmm.
So that's when, and then, yeah, when I was in corporate America, I was like, okay, girl, you need to like really grind here. Like, and I was getting paid like a little bit, definitely not like anything that I could have been living off of. But when I got laid off, I had some savings. So I was like, okay, now like try posting 3 times a day on TikTok and see if you can grow enough to actually make this a livable wage. And I had like savings to fall back on.
Right.
And it worked.
So it's kind of the perfect storm.
Yeah, it really was. It all just kind of fell into place. Like I didn't plan that. I mean, I definitely didn't plan on getting laid off.
Yeah. I don't think anyone
Actually,
plans on that.
well, I will say if you're out there, I recommend it. It's a nice little they give you a little
Little
package of
severance.
money when you leave.
Yeah, I just recently learned about severance. That's crazy.
Yeah, mine was actually terrible because I was only working there for 5 months.
Oh.
So they're like, "We don't owe you any money, actually. We just got
You're like,
here."
wait, please, just a little.
Yeah, but it was like, it was enough if you, like, ball on a budget.
Which you absolutely do.
Yeah.
Why do you think your TikTok and Instagram and all of that like caught on so heavily? Because I do feel like you have a very loyal following, especially on TikTok. So do you think there was something that like set you apart that people really gravitated towards and wanted to follow you for? Was there like a specific like series you did that went viral? Or was there like a strategy that you used where you said, going from posting once a day to 3 times a day? Like, what would you say was kind of your perfect sauce?
The 3 times a day definitely helped, but I really think what changed it for me is starting to talk in videos because really, like, people follow other people because they, like, wanna get to know them and, like watching them as a person because anybody can post, like, a cute little montage of their ski trip, which is exactly what I was doing for a couple years, and then I had seen so many videos about people suggesting like the way to grow was to like really show your voice. And I also had this conversation with some friends. So then I started talking a little more, which was so terrifying at
So
first. Like,
uncomfortable.
this is the most embarrassing thing I've ever done in my entire life. Now I like to live by the quote that it's only embarrassing if you choose to be embarrassed because then I just won't choose that. And then I literally like I let go of embarrassment a while ago. Because I'm like, I know it's cringy and I don't really care at this point because it's fun too. But once, I don't know, over time, I got a little more comfortable. And now, like, I'll just pick up my phone and yap. Like,
Yeah.
I don't, they can hear what I have to
Yapper
say.
certified over here. I get
Yeah.
it.
But yeah, no, talking, like letting your personality shine through because I just really think that's a big game changer for anyone because we all have different personalities. Like, I think that anybody could be successful if they hop on and just start yapping.
Mhm. Well, no, and I think that's great advice too. Number one, like you saying how uncomfortable it was at first. I think everyone experiences that. And I mean, I guarantee you, if you pull up your first like TikToks where you're talking, and I pull up my first IGTVs where I'm talking, I mean, it is horrendously bad. And I'm not speaking for you, I'm speaking for myself. Like, but I think it would be weird if I looked back, 5, 6 years ago and didn't think it was bad because you get better as you do it. Like, I don't wanna be doing the same thing I was doing when I first started. But I also think, I mean, that quote you said, "Only if you choose to be embarrassed by it," it's the same with, like, letting go of people's opinions. I think that is the number one thing that holds people back from being in the, like, creator space or having the internet personality or doing TikToks or vlogs or whatever, it's that fear of, is this going to be cringy? What are people going to think from my hometown or from college or
Yes. High
whatever? And
school?
yeah, I'm like, literally, who cares? Number one. But number two, it's also something, and you could probably attest to this too, like choosing not to be embarrassed, choosing for it not to feel cringy to you, and choosing to actually like not care what people think is such a practice. Like, you have to just keep working that muscle and keep posting those videos and keep doing things that, yeah, sure, people could be talking about, but it's like, how uninteresting is their life if they're talking about a TikTok? You know what I mean? And great, people are talking about me. I'm like, press is press, baby.
Yeah, honestly. I also think, like, while you're practicing, like, choosing those thoughts, when you're taking videos and, you know, attempting to post them, you can't be, like, thinking about all those things. I, like, post it and I'm like, "Okay, it's up, it's gone." But when I'm editing it, like, I kind of dissociate from, like, the person that's on that screen, and because if I were to watch it, like, do I genuinely, like, love the way that I said all of these things, I would never upload anything. So, like, I need to record it and be like, "Okay, get what you need to say out," and then, like, don't think about the way you said that, or, like, maybe you didn't look your best in that, because then you'll never post any videos and then you'll get nowhere. Like, I just started, like, posting and, like, forgetting about it and moving on to the next video idea I had.
Mm. Well, and I think within that, it's like people always say this, start now, perfect later. Like, if you have an idea for a podcast or YouTube channel or whatever it is, just do it. It's not going to be perfect. And then also, I think something that's really smart that you did is the consistency piece, like sticking to one video a day and then moving to 3 videos a day. And if you make that goal with yourself that you're going to post X amount, you are going to have imperfect videos because you're not going to look your best every single day. And that wouldn't be real if you did, if you were always like, you know,
Yeah.
full face of makeup or like hair done or whatever it is. And that stops you then from creating. So having that goal of, okay, I'm going to be so consistent, showing up on stories, showing up on TikTok, then it forces you to make videos that aren't your best work. But I mean, people want to see that. People don't want like some curated thing. And I think that's comes back to what you said about people wanting to get to know your personality and wanting to hear you talk on your videos because they want to get to know you as
Yeah.
close to your real life as possible.
I also feel like that's kind of the beauty of TikTok. It's more relaxed. I would feel so uncomfortable posting, which this is just a personal preference, and I know that this actually works for some people, but I would feel weird about posting 3 reels on Instagram a day. But I
Mm,
know people
mhm.
that do, like, they post their videos and they are so successful, but, you know, maybe that's what's holding me back, truly.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Like, I feel like Instagram, and maybe this is holding me back too. You have like the aesthetic of your feed, like when you and I were doing the collabed posts and trying to figure out what cover photo we were going to use for a reel that would fit both of our
Yeah,
feeds.
that fits both
I
of
was like,
ours.
this is so dumb.
Yeah, but at the same time, I love it.
No,
Like,
no, no. Say, I mean, I'm saying like that's this is so dumb that I care about this, but I'm still like going back and forth with you, and we're figuring out
oh,
what works for both of us.
and I will do it till the day I die.
Yeah,
Like, I'm only here
same.
for this.
No,
I
but it's
love it.
okay. I mean, every medium is completely different. It's the same as like my podcast to me. Not that it's like a Finsta, like I don't care, but I'm way more like I'm not tight-lipped on here. Like I'll say anything that I want and like I haven't washed my hair in like 5 days. You know what I mean? Like I don't care as much because I want it to be super real and have like real
Mhm.
authentic conversations with people and like show up super real versus on Ron Rebellious. I mean, I'm still pretty candid on there, but like it's curated for sure.
Yeah.
Like
Well, and
curated
also,
real
like,
life and stuff.
photos and videos, if on Instagram, if you're posting, like, even once a day, or, like, if I do a dump, which I generally do, I'm picking, like, my favorite photos that I took all week. Okay, this one selfie of me, I probably took 20 to 2,500. I'm just kidding. Like,
Yeah.
what,
Click, click,
like,
click, click.
so many. Like, well, it depends. If, like, Cooper's taking them, like, it's like, okay, we're one shot wondering this. Like,
Yeah.
he doesn't have patience
He
for
doesn't
this.
he doesn't have much patience.
Like, he's like, "You look so good in that, like, why would you want another one?" And I'm like, And I love these compliments, but, like, I look like shit.
I'm curious your answer on this because I know you just started doing YouTube, and I wanna hear your experience with that because it's something I'm, like, thinking about getting into, and I recorded, like, a day in the life just for Instagram because people I've never done that, and people are always like, "Oh, do a day in the life." But I, of course, tried to make it the coolest day of my fucking life. I was like
Yeah,
I, like, ran to the grocery store, rode the gondola back up so that people could see, like, "Oh, I can ride the gondola back to my house." Like, "Oh, I'm gonna go skin in the morning, and, like, then I'm gonna go ski, and then I'm gonna do all this stuff." Because I wanted it to be interesting. Because if I recorded a day where I'm, like, at my computer all day, and it's, like, me just typing on the computer, no one wants to watch that. So it's, like, where
yeah,
but it's still real life. It's, like, components of things that I would do anyway, but I'm obviously trying to make myself, like, look better. So how do you, like, balance all that? Because I remember when we were together, we also talked about, like, struggling, not with being present, but not recording everything, but it's hard when you're in that
mhm.
mindset of vlogging and you're doing something cool and you're like, "Oh, this would be really fun to put in the vlog, but I wanna be present in experiences, but I also would, like to share it with my audience because it's my job."
That is actually the biggest dilemma ever. I also like, good and bad with Cooper. Cooper is very present and, like, doesn't care about his phone that much. Now it's, like, a little bit different because he's, trying to build Outpost and, like,
Mhm.
post on there a bunch and stuff. But at the same time, like, when we go on our little adventures, like, he might take one photo or forget. Like, I'm
Yeah.
like, "Oh, you just went snowmobiling with your friends, like, did you take any pictures?" "Oh, no, I forgot."
Yeah.
He, like, we'll be on a hike, and he just wants to, like, silently, like, soak it all in. And I'm
Yeah.
like, "That is so beautiful, but will you take my picture on this
Yeah.
hike? It is so beautiful, and I wanna show everybody else that." So, I struggle with it. He keeps me, a little more present, and I also, like, want to be present too, but it is, like, a constant battle of, like, "Okay, do I just soak this in, or do I capture it because it's so insane and I wanna share it with everyone?" So, it's good to do both. I think I do like YouTube because, well, I feel like I'm bringing my camera around a lot more,
Mhm.
um, because there's, like, for TikToks, I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna go film this, like, ski outing that I do in the morning." And then, like, maybe the rest of the day, like, I'm still doing stuff, but I don't really need to film it all. With YouTube, I try to film, like, little bits and pieces of everything so people can, like, kinda understand a more real version of, like, the day to day. I still don't film, like, I don't know, sometimes I film, like, me working on my computer just to be like, "Hey, guys, this is what I'm doing most of the time, by the way,
Job.
just because it's lame." But when I used to do YouTube, I would film everything, like, every conversation. Like, I would only do, like, trips I went on, but I would film every conversation, like, every view, literally everything, and I felt like it really took away from my experience going on that trip.
Mm.
And then I would have to sift through so much, and it just, like, wasn't worth it, so I actually ended up quitting YouTube at that time. But now that I've reamped it, I am like, "Well, I don't, like, need to, like, film every conversation, like, people don't need to watch that, like, let's just show them a couple cute clips here and there of, like, what we're doing." And I also think that it's a lot more relaxed because if someone's going on to YouTube, they're, like, ready to lock in for, like, a 20-minute video of mine. Whereas, like,
Right.
TikTok, you're there to, like, grab their attention.
Mm.
I feel like I have to say everything I need to say in 1 minute and, like, just get it all out there, high energy, saying it all. But on YouTube, I'm like, I feel like I can be a little bit more real because I'm like, I know you're watching this because you, like, actually wanna watch me, not because I am here for, like, an attention grab. So I can kinda, like, I don't know, set up the camera, casually do what I was doing, say my
Yeah.
thoughts here and there. I feel like with this job, you get burned out very easily because it's the same thing over and over. Like, every day I'm
Mm.
trying to post on TikTok a couple times, hopefully on Instagram too. I'm doing the same, like, I don't know, emails or meetings or whatever I have. It just gets very repetitive and you can get burned out. So I feel like starting this new platform has helped me be a little bit more creative and, like, learn to, again, like skiing, like, fall in love with it again.
Mhm.
It was a very long answer. I don't even know what the
No.
question
No,
was.
I love that answer, and I think, so many people can relate to that, and I also coming back to like the burnout and struggling with feeling present, that's something that I always ask people that are in occupations similar to ours, where they're like having to be on their phone and having to be on social media all the time. Because I have so many friends that'll like delete Instagram for a month, and I'm like, that sounds so nice. I could literally
I
never
would
do that.
love
Even when
that.
like yeah, even if I go off Instagram, which obviously we have like different career paths, but I post so much of my life on my business. And when I like take a break from Instagram, like I went to the beach a couple weeks ago and like didn't post on stories, our sales were so much lower. Like it's so crazy. And I'm aware of that and I'm fine with like, taking a week off or whatever. But sometimes I do like need to take a step back and need a break. And it is hard, like you said. Like I think so many people can relate to that. Even people not having social media as their job, like feeling like taking that content is taking them out of the present moment or taking away from their experience. And I found something that helps me, and I think you and I talked about this, is like I'm always taking little videos and always taking photos. And I used to struggle with that, but I feel like I've gotten better, like feeling present. And part of that is like I post later. Like I'm never posting like live posting in the moment. And I think
Mhm.
that helps me because, like for our photo shoot, for example, we got so much content. I don't even think I looked at it for like a week because I just needed to like live my life. And then I looked at it because it's just like it's too much. Like it's overstimulating sometimes to like
Yes,
be live posting and doing all those things. That's something that helps me is like posting things later. And
absolutely.
then I'm a little more present in the moment and I'm not like I'm taking photos to post later, but I'm not in the moment thinking like, "Oh shit, I need to do this, I need to do that." I'm just taking a shit ton and then I figure it out later, like what I need
Yeah.
to use. Like I'm not like actively thinking about social media as much. Have you found like ways to balance your work and your life like as you're getting into it? I know you're still new to this career and you're like growing so quickly, but do you have any like practices or things that you like to do right now? I'm not saying that you have it figured out. I don't think anyone does, but
No, I wish I was more organized with it, honestly. But I feel like, well, I actually just started a new job, well, like 5 months ago. And so now that I have like that set schedule, because before that, I was like, okay, girl, like you have nothing to do all day except for
yeah.
go skiing and post 3 videos. Like,
Yeah.
and like maybe I'll have like meetings here or there and whatnot. But like, I don't know. Now that I started another job, I definitely have to like plan around that, which I feel like I'm could definitely be a lot more organized with it. The only thing I really feel like I do similar to yours in the sense that like I don't post like day of because I just want to like enjoy it. Like I have my day, I take my photos and like look at it when you have free time another time. Like enjoy that you get the opportunity to experience this. Stories are the only thing I like try to post day of, but I usually post like a little dump at like the end of the day. Like here's what I
Mhm.
got all day. Or like if I have a free time in my day,
Same.
to like sit down and post a dump of it. But I don't know how people do it like live. Like
I don't either.
I don't.
That's what I do. I either do it then that night or the next day. Like I'll sit and just do it in an hour.
Mhm.
And then the weekends I don't post anything
Same.
because and then I do like a weekend dump.
Yeah. Well, sometimes I will on Instagram but I don't post. I typically do not post on TikTok on the
Do you
weekends.
like draft stuff to post or you don't post at all? Like you don't even get on it?
No, I'll like edit stuff, which is actually really nice because I if I'm planning, which I do, like I never plan to post on the weekends. So if I do have free time on the weekends to work and I can just like edit stuff that I want to post on like Monday or Tuesday, that is so nice because then if I end up having, other stuff come up those days or having to work my other job those days, then like you're literally set, which is so nice. Also, like the hours are different. Like I will sometimes be working, which I'm sure you are too, like editing or, writing briefs. I feel like, I don't know, I feel like the behind the scenes of the creator stuff is not really talked about or shown ever. But I'll be doing that shit at like midnight. And I'm like, which I chose to because I like chose to go skiing. But
Exactly.
it's not like another job where like you're working during the day and then once 5 comes, like, you're done. Like, it's like there's literally always something to do. Granted, I would not trade this job for a 9 to 5. Like, this is not what I'm saying, but it's
No,
like
totally.
really different and has, I don't know, just little things like that that I don't think people, including me, realized until I was in it.
Well, I mean, it takes a lot of self-discipline, and yeah, it takes a specific type of person, and I say that all the time, like, my friends I have so many friends who, like, get to move their mouse around and then, like, go on walks 10 times a day and, like, don't really have to do a ton, which is freaking awesome, like, I'm jealous of that, but at the same time, like, people think I'm crazy because I wake up at, like, 5:30 most mornings, especially during ski season, but it's because then I go ski for, like, 2 hours, and people are like, "Oh my gosh, like, that's so cool you can go ski," and I'm like, "I do, and it's awesome, but I'm working the rest of the night." And, like, I'll never s but I'll also never say no to a social thing to work. That's something that, like, kind of off the bat, I decided, like, I don't ever you hear podcasts all the time with, like, billionaires and entrepreneurs, and they're like, "Oh, like, if you have your own business, like, you're not gonna have any friends and, like, you're not gonna have any free time," and it's I can definitely see how that can happen, but I think for me, like, my relationships with, like, my family and my friends and myself are too important to me to, like, skip out on things unless it's something I don't wanna do, and so I always try to, like you said, like, sure, like, writing captions and preparing for my week on a Sunday, that just sets me up to be better
Mhm.
for the rest of the week, and then I'm not as stressed about, planning my posts or whatever it is consistently that I'm doing each week and working odd hours, but then, if I work maybe one weekend or I'm working, like, at night, then I go to Europe for, like, a whole summer and I get to it's always balancing, like and I get that, like, you're working extra oftentimes, but it's preparing for, like, a backpacking trip or for a Europe trip that you're about to go on or whatever it is, so you have a lot of flexibility, it's just you have to decide when you're gonna get that shit done because like you said, there's never a time where you're gonna sit down and be like, "There's literally nothing I could do or nothing I could get ahead on." There's always something
Never.
you could be doing, always. You just have to, like I like compartmentalize a lot in my brain, like, I'll just, like, turn it off. Do you?
Yes, because sometimes I, like, have to decide, like, you're done working for the day.
Mhm.
Otherwise, I would just keep doing it. I actually used to find myself doing that, like, this winter because when I started this new job, I'd be, like, working all day or something, and then I'm like, "Okay, well, now I have to work on social media at night," and then I'd feel like it was taking away from any time that Cooper and I were sharing together, like, at night, like, we'd be, like, cooking dinner, but I was, like, still on my phone, like, doing shit that I needed to do, and I was like, "Okay, wait, you need to, be a little bit more organized and take some time to figure out when you should be doing these things." I also think going back to your point about being self-disciplined, like, yeah, we choose these possibly terrible hours, but it's all doing fun stuff. Like,
Yeah.
it's fabulous. But it's interesting because we could also not do them. Like, we could also just like, oh, if I don't want to work today, like I could just not. But then going back to your what you said about going on vacation, like if you just like choose to not work, then you also are choosing to not get paid.
Yeah.
Like our our paychecks are not promised here. It's not like you have one coming in every 2 weeks. So like, yeah, you could chill out on the social media and then like choose not to grind and like work up late at night like multiple days a week if I want to do that. But then I also like maybe I'm sacrificing my retirement fund or something like
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like I just then I'm not getting paid as much as I would like to be.
Right.
So you have to be self-disciplined or like you can't make it.
Do you have any other advice for anyone, like, wanting to get into the content creation, social media, business world that you've learned?
Mm,
'Cause, I mean, I think that's great. I think self-discipline is key, and like you said about writing briefs and stuff, there's so much behind the scenes to the fun, creative jobs that we have that, like, people don't see.
yeah. Well, actually, I 2 things, and now I just forgot one of them. Oh, no, the first one. You have to love it, and you have to, like, really want it. Like, don't just do it because 'cause you're like, "Oh, these people make money doing this." Like, I
Mm,
started doing this because I love taking photos, and I loved sharing them, and I loved editing them. So now it's great because I love my job because it's so fun. I'm just doing what I always did as a hobby. But if you are doing this for the goal to make it a job and make money, and that is it, I don't think I think you're gonna get burned out really quick. I don't think you're gonna enjoy it, and it would just make more sense to find something you're more passionate about. Like, yeah,
mm.
you can make money a lot of different ways. Like, don't choose this unless you like are so stoked about it, because you're gonna have people like saying terrible things about your life every day.
Yeah.
Comments. And for me, I'm like, well, I don't really care because I love what I'm doing. I'm loving the way I'm living my life. So like their comments don't really bother me. But if you're like doing it for the sole goal of a job, I could see how like those comments and like so many other factors would just get to you. So
Yeah.
worth it at all. Another thing, my friend just brought this up to me because I think she was saying like Alex Earl or someone was saying that the job is easy. And I don't think that the work is hard, but I think it takes hard work. Does that make sense? Like the work editing it isn't like a challenging task. But doing it enough to become successful at it, I would say, is like, it takes a lot of work. That being said, I think when you get to the level of Alex Earl, or even like the position I'm in now, like, I feel like I used to have to work a lot harder than I do now, because at this point, I have a platform. I don't post on 3 times a day anymore because I don't have the time. And also I don't know. I'm like finding new avenues to create and new, different things that I'm doing. So like, I don't feel the need to post 3 times a day. I'm also like, I want to grow and stuff, but not when I was doing that, it was like, okay, you need to grow so that this can become a sustaining income for you. And now like I, have a community that I really like, love the girlies out there. Well, so then I don't feel like I need to post 3 times a day. Also, I've been able to offload some of the work that I used to do on my own. Like I got a manager this year or end of last year, and she handles like all the incoming emails for me. And then she has a lawyer that looks over all my contracts. She negotiates everything. Whereas it used to be me negotiating everything. I was reading over the contracts, like going back and forth with brands. I didn't ever do a ton of pitching. Actually, I don't think I did any pitching ever. I was like lucky enough to mostly just have inbounds, but she takes care of all of that. Or like, she's like, do you want to do this? And I read over everything. And then she's like, okay, sign the contract once it's like done or whatever. And there's like more that goes into like the creative brief and stuff that I still do. But like offloading that has saved me so much. Now that I'm doing YouTube, I hired an editor. So when I used to do YouTube, I used to sit there for like 2 days editing my video. I'm like, I don't have 2 full days now to just, because it was like in college and like I could work it into my school schedule.
Right.
I don't have a ton of time. But I used to be doing all of this. And I would say now that I can offload some of my work, it's not as hard. But I think when you're first starting out, it's a lot of work and it's hard.
Well, but that's what you have to do to grow. And I think to like the point that Alex Earl was probably making, when you get to that level, and even when you get to your level, like you get to say no to things now. You have a higher rate. So your time, because of all the work that you've done, this didn't just miraculously happen. Your time and your platform and your voice is monetarily at a higher rate. So you can charge more for a video than you used to charge. So rather than having to make 4 videos, you can make 1 and make the same amount of money. So that's time back. And like you said too, with like hiring help. So doing all of that is just a product of how much work you put into it. So I think, and it is, and I think it's what you said about it's not, the work isn't hard, but you have to work hard. I totally relate to that. It's not like it's like this crazy complex thing. It's like you have to teach yourself how to use a video editor, and you have to teach yourself, like, you get better as you use these tools. It's just more like monotonous. It just like takes a long time.
Yeah.
It's not that it's like so difficult and like no one would be able to do it.
No, I used to like live in Excel.
Yeah.
That was hard. I had mental breakdowns every day.
Yeah.
This is not hard. Like, it's fun. But it's time consuming.
Do you have like a goal with your platform? Like, is there anything that you hope to accomplish in the next year, in the next 5 years, or like a dream?
Oh boy. I don't really know. I will never have any like number of followers goal, because I feel like that's not really in your control.
Yeah.
Also, I feel like it would just lead to me letting myself down. So I more set goals of like getting out a certain amount of like content. I feel like for me right now, I just want to explore other opportunities of business. Like this year when we launched, I actually have one right here. Yeah.
Yay!
Look at I added I love skiing.
That's so cute.
Like that was a new business venture of mine. So it'd be cool to, just try to see like explore that and see other ways to make money within this job. Someday, I would love to start a nonprofit, but I don't think I'm in the place to add that to my plate right now. But I don't think I want to be doing content forever just because I don't see myself as like, I don't know, when I'm like 50 years old, I don't want to like,
Yeah.
you guys get ready with me. Like, I don't like, no.
Ready with me at the nursing home.
Unless I'm like some sick like skier, but I probably still will keep posting, but I don't want it to be like my full-time thing. So I would love to like explore other ways to make money and stuff. And yeah.
Well, and I think that's again, you're laying all the groundwork for that. I think no matter what you want to do and create or what product you want to make, or if you want to start another business or a nonprofit, you have your audience and you have your community. And I think for anyone listening that wants to start any kind of business or monetize on social media, that community piece is like the most important thing. And that's what allows you to like have a brand, whether it's a business brand, a personal brand, a lifestyle brand. And then once you have that basis, you can do whatever you want
Yeah.
because those people are going to be loyal to you because you've put in all the work every day and told them about your morning routines and the coffee you make and your try-ons for your outfits and your ski days and everything. So people, want to support you no matter what you do and will like kind of pivot with you as you grow.
Yeah. I think that's the goal. Unless, there might be some people out there that want to just keep posting forever, but
I don't think I want to either.
no. Mm-mm. I mean,
But
I'll
I'm just gonna
post
let
like
it
at
go.
my own leisure, but
Totally. And I'll monetize my kids, but
yeah, little mommy blogger moment. I really like doing things until I feel like they don't serve me anymore or I'm no longer happy with them and then switching. But I'm not one of those people that's like, okay, is this like I'm starting content now? Like, do I want to do this forever? Because I'm like, okay, if you look at every life choice like that, then you won't ever want to do anything. Like, I don't,
well, and I think having the mindset of being okay with like being a novice at things is so important too. And also being aware enough that you're like, okay, I want to explore all the avenues. Like I'm guilty of this sometimes with business decisions where I do things a certain way for a long time just out of habit. And then I look up and I'm like, wait, maybe this isn't like working. Maybe I should like pivot and try something else. Cause you get so good at it, or you just like get so habitual with it that you forget that like there's other ways that you could do whatever it is that you're doing,
literally so many other ways.
which I think is important too. Yeah, I want to talk about you and Cooper a little bit because you guys are so cute. And I got to meet Cooper this ski season, and I am his biggest fan. Like, I think he is such an amazing guy. No, like, truly, like, I think he's so cool. And it's been so much fun, like, getting to know him and being friends with him, and also getting to know you and just seeing y'all's relationship. I remember when I think this is the first time me and you like actually hung out when we went rock climbing, and we were talking
Also,
about Cooper.
the fact that we did that,
Yeah.
we met each other like, oh yeah, let's just go dangle each other off this cliff.
Yeah.
You
In
too.
my platform Crocs.
Yeah. Okay, sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's just funny. Well, and then we, like, met and we were like, "Should we, like, do a collab?" Like, that was
Immediately.
literally, like, how it went. And then I was like, "Can I stay with you in your bed?" So we just it all happened really fast. But I remember us having a conversation, like, the random things that, like, stick with you from conversations. We were talking about you and Cooper, and I can't remember, like, what we were talking about, but maybe I asked, like, if like he if you thought like he was your soulmate or something, and you were so matter of fact, you're like, "Yeah, like, if I don't marry Cooper, like, I'm just not gonna get married. Like, he's just, like, my one person that's for me, and, like, if it's not him, then it's no one kinda thing." And you were
Yeah.
so like, "I'm gonna marry him, and if I don't, then I'm just gonna spend the rest of my life alone." And I loved that because I think for someone that's dated not so many guys, like I've only had a few like very serious boyfriends, but like casually dating and dating those serious guys, I never felt that way about them like that you did in that conversation. And it was such a lesson to me of because at the time I was kind of like going through the remnants of my breakup. And I was like, I never felt that way about my ex-boyfriend. And I was never so like sure and like proud to like not show him off. I've just never been treated super well by a guy. And uh you guys are just so like you love each other so much and you're so mutually respectful and you also are just like best friends. And it's so cool to watch. And he is truly like one of the most like genuine, kind men I've ever met. And he's so young. Like, I'm like, how are you that mature?
I
And
know.
he's like, what, 23,
Yeah.
24? So this is the Cooper fan club. Cooper, if you're listening to
Woo,
this,
woo.
we love you.
I just found out that sometimes we watch my YouTube videos together, but like if we don't have the time to do it together, he was like, "Oh, I watch them all like while I'm sewing my hats." I was like, "Oh, I didn't know that. I had no idea
That's
you
so
started it."
sweet.
So yeah, no, he's
Yeah,
such
talk about you and Cooper.
okay. Well, do the people? I don't know if people know how we met. I feel like I've
Yeah,
said
no,
this.
take it from the top.
Okay. Okay. Cool. So I was on a girls' trip grad school year with some of my ski girlfriends to Aspen because we wanted to hit another ski resort for the season. And it happened to be, it was closing. We're like, okay, we literally have to go this weekend because there's not another weekend that we can go. And I actually almost bailed because I had so much homework and I had a presentation or a test Monday morning. And I was like, I didn't study or prepare for this. I don't know. But I was like, you know what? Go. Like, I don't even care. Like, just go. And then on the drive over, we found out it was Highlands closing day. And I didn't know what that was. But we're like, oh, people like dress up. So we stopped at like gas station and got orange, what we thought were construction vests, but I ended up just looking like a blind skier. Little things to wear like for the day. And Cooper pointed me out. So there's like a big party at the base and there's like a DJ and everything. He was kind of standing on the side of the crowd. He pointed me out to his friend. He was like, oh my God, like, who's that girl? I don't know what he said about me. He was probably saying how gorgeous I was. And his friend was like, oh, that's Grace Donner. Like, she goes to our school. So his friends knew me, like, from Boulder and probably Instagram, I think. I don't know. But he was kind of mustering up the courage to come talk to me. And his friend just, like, dragged him into our conversation. And there were just so many green flags in the convo. Like, he noticed that I had race ski boots on, and so he was like, "Oh, like you're good at skiing. Like, do you want to go backcountry skiing? Like, do you have a setup? Like, I'd love to take you sometime." And I was like, "Oh, great! Like, not a dude that's just like this party's lit. Want to like go back to my place?" He's like, "Let's go on an
That is
adventure."
lit.
Yeah, like he's like, "Let's go do something." So I was like, just he said so many good things in that conversation, and then I gave him my phone number and I watched him put it in, but there's no service at the base of Highlands. And I had to leave like 30 minutes later and drive back to Boulder because I had that presentation and I had told him that. And then when I got back to my house, I told my roommate, I was like, oh my God, I met like the cutest guy. Like, and then I gave him my number. I was like, oh my God, he never texted me. I swear I watched him text me. And I was freaking out. We couldn't find him on social media because his username is Mr. Coopj. And like I didn't know to look for that. So like I was like, cool, I'm never gonna see him again. And then the text finally came through and he got service and he asked if I made it home safe. And then the next day he was like, good luck on your presentation. And I was like, hold up, you remember that? Like we were drinking at the
That's
party.
so sweet.
Yeah, so many green flags. And then he also went to Boulder, so we started hanging out a bunch there. And we would do like cool activity dates. Like our first time hanging out was skiing with him and his friends. And he actually just told me this like last night. He was like, yeah, I didn't know if you like wanted to just be friends with me or if like it was like something more than that. Like you saw me romantically. He's like, I don't know, I thought you were cute and like really cool, and like I wanted to be more, but he was like, I did not know what your vibe was at all. I was like, I thought that it was like getting to know each other on that level was like the only option, but he like couldn't tell at first. He's like, I don't know, you're so casual. I was like, no. But that was another thing that I think that it worked really well for us. I only had one other boyfriend, and it was like this toxic relationship in high school, as they usually are. Then throughout college, like I either like hated men and didn't give them the time of the day, or I was like obsessed with the situationship and I was just dreaming about what they could be, but not what they actually were. And I never showed the situationships that like I wanted to date necessarily. And I had friends be like, well, you don't have a boyfriend because you act like you don't want one. And I felt like with Cooper, I didn't change the way I acted at all. And we just fell in love like so easily. And I think that worked really well for us because I don't know, I wasn't going to change the way I am for some
Well, you shouldn't.
and like act like I needed to show him that I needed a relationship. I don't know. It just kind of fell into place. Well, okay. We had like been talking for a few months. I had stayed with him and his family in Aspen. Like I had met the whole family. We weren't together, or like we were together. Like ever since like our first date, we were like it was just us two. But we weren't like officially hadn't had that conversation. We had it because we were kind of talking about like what that was going to look like. And then he was like, well, I'm leaving for Costa Rica for a month and I don't want to ask you out and then leave you for a month. Like that's so he was like, I just don't want to do that. And also he was like, I don't want to rush into things because I've done that before and it just like ended really badly. So he's like, I just want to take it slow. So it's like, okay, great. Well, like I'm not going to change the way that I treat this relationship, regardless of if we have a label on it or not, because it was just us two, regardless of what we called it. And I was just like, we are dating and we go on dates, whatever.
Yeah.
And we go out to sushi right before his flight to Costa Rica, and he blurts it out that he is really make it official, and then leaves for a month 30 minutes later. And
will you be my girlfriend, please?
And I was like, wait, I thought we weren't going to do this. She's like, they just came over me. I was like, okay, great, like perfect. And yeah, and then we now live together in Aspen. I moved here in October and he graduated in December and moved here as well. But we were coming so much that we were like, okay, it's time. We need to live there because the commute was, when you're commuting the 4 or 5 hours every weekend, like it was a little stupid.
Yeah.
So, and we wanted to live in a mountain town after graduation, and this one just made the most sense because his family's still here and it has so much access to everything we like to do.
So what made him like what do you feel like made him the person that you wanted to commit to and like wanted to date? Because you were kind of like fuck man for a while.
Yeah, I was. I also, before I met him, I truly believed that I would probably find my soulmate when I was like 45 in like another country, like just vibing. I was like,
Yeah.
I just don't really feel like I'm going to settle down. Like it just doesn't really seem like. I was like, if it happens, it happens, but like that's probably not happening. Like I'm just because it wasn't a focus of mine. It wasn't a goal of mine.
Yeah.
I also think was great because he came when I was just really not looking for that. But he is one of the goofiest people I've ever met. And I feel like that part isn't shown a ton on social media because if I put a camera on him, then he like gets all shy about it. But he's a fucking weirdo, honestly. Like, which is great because I'm like, now I can be my full weird self and it's fabulous. And he is so passionate and hardworking about the things he loves, like, and so knowledgeable about them. Like Outpost, for example, he wanted to learn how to sew, and then my sister gave him a sewing machine, and then he's like, great, well now I know how. I've perfected this hat and I'm going to start a business. Like he's just like
so cool,
clings on to things and is so passionate about them. Like it's really inspiring. So yeah, also I feel like I'm kind of a crazy personality, and he definitely is crazy and wild, but he's also pretty calm. And I feel like we balance each other out. Like we both have our moments of being, calm and crazy. And yeah, I also, a big thing for me was like, I never want to like raise our voices or like fight like that. Like if we have a problem, we just need to like talk about it. And he has literally never raised his voice once at me, like in this whole 2 years. I don't know.
Oh,
We just like we have very similar communication styles, which made it easy because we just like can talk to each other about anything. And also moving in together, I feel like we have no hard feelings. Like if I'm like, you're being annoying, like get away from me. Like that you don't
he's
take
like,
that.
okay,
Yeah. Or like if he's like, do the fucking dishes. I'm like, you're right. Then I, like you know what
so
I mean?
true.
Like not that he like bosses me around to do house chores, but like
No, I know what you mean though.
or if he said the same thing, like you're being annoying, then I'd be like, okay, like let's just not talk. Like we don't take anything personally, so I think it works really well.
Do you have any like advice, like things that you've learned through your relationship with him, or things you've learned from the more like toxic situationships, relationships that you've had? Because I think we've all experienced both.
I feel like I have so much advice, and now I'm blanking on all of it. I feel like not okay. I don't have a ton of advice with like the toxic stuff, but especially with like the situationshipy stuff. Like every guy before this, I would romanticize our shitty situationship so much. And I feel like you girls and maybe guys too are constantly thinking about like what if or like, oh, but like someday we could be this. I'm like, yeah, but you're not. The reality is he's leaving you on red and like going to a date dash at his frat with another girl. Like, you know, like I don't know. Just you need to really take things as it is. Like, is he treating you well or not? And like if he's not, move on.
Well, and also like, is he treating you well right now? Like maybe he like treated you well once, or maybe you think that he could
Yes.
treat you well, but you can't. I mean, I've done this. That's why I can speak on it. Like you can't hold on because I was always guilty of that too. Like you said, like falling in love or being obsessed with people's potential or like what you think they could be,
Yes.
and filling in the blanks because you didn't know, or just like kind of blindsiding yourself, and then they like Snapchat you, and you're like, no, they're obsessed with me, and it's like, no, they're actually not. They don't give a shit about you.
Not at all.
So, like, just taking it at face value and how are they treating you presently right now currently? And if it's making you wonder at all.
I think for Cooper and I, what worked really well for us, well, which does, I think when we met at a really good time in our lives because we were both graduating or near graduation. So we were already having those conversations of like, where do you want to live? What do you want to do? And obviously, all of that can change. But for us, like, the main goal was like, we both wanted to live in the mountains in a ski town. And we shared the same hobbies, which I know is not a priority for some people. But personally, like, I want to be able to do my favorite things with my favorite person so much time. Some people like to have, you know, separate stuff. And like, we do have separate like hobbies. But for the majority of it, like, we love doing the same things. And we want to move to the same types of places. So then we didn't have to struggle about like, I don't know, disagreeing about where we wanted to go next. Like we kind of had the same goals and we talked about those goals honestly before we were dating. Like we talked about even like how many kids we want to have someday before we were dating. Because then I knew when we were dating, I'm like, okay, I'm dating this man with really good intentions. Like I know that there's a good future ahead of us because we've already had those hard conversations.
Well, and like you said, it was kind of nice that this happened when you guys are graduating. So those conversations, especially about like where you want to go and like what's next, were kind of natural and both like on your brains.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah. Made it easy.
I love that. Well, I mean, I'm y'all's biggest fan, so. So you said you were going to Europe soon. What are your plans this summer? What's next for you?
So it's off season right now. There's nothing
Mhm.
happening here.
Yeah.
And the airport, so my other job, which you know this, but I work at my local airport, loading the bags on the plane and like making the planes come forward like this. Come at me, bro. The airport's closed for a majority of May. So I'm going to Europe for a month. And my best friend, Ava, who I met in college, her and I bought tickets to see Taylor Swift in Paris. I did that in the fall, and then I had like no way to get there, no hotel, and then I actually just booked our hotel last night. We're really I leave in 2 days. So, like, really living on the edge. But, yeah, so we're going for 2 weeks. We kinda just planned a 2-week trip around that concert, and then Cooper's flying out, and my friend Crystal, who also does content, she's flying out, and we're doing Red Bull competition where we have to travel all around Europe for a week, and the only currency we have is Red Bull, which sounds really cool, and I was hyped on it at first. And then I watched some recap videos, and it kind of just seems like we're homeless for a week. And I'm like, this looks terrible.
Yeah, so what is actually happening?
I like don't know. And they're sending us a packing list sometime soon. And I'm like, yeah, well, like I'm leaving in 2 days. Like,
Yeah.
you gotta send this now. Like, I don't know. And then there's like a meeting to prep us, and it's while I'm in Paris. So I'm like, okay, great. Well, I better be prepped. Like, I have to have
Yeah.
everything there. I don't have a choice. I don't know. But there's like
Funny.
challenges, I think, that you can like earn more Red Bull, but you basically have to barter. Like, if you want to sleep somewhere at night, you have to like ask hotels to like let you stay there with like, here, take this 1 can of Red Bull. And
Wait,
let me
seriously?
Yeah, or like eating food. I have to bribe people to give me food.
By
with
trading them Red Bull?
Yeah.
What?
I know. And I was like, wait, I didn't think about the details when I committed to this.
Oh, I thought you
So,
were saying that you had, like, Red Bull, like, quote, unquote, money, like, Monopoly money, and, like, certain hotels would, like, take it or something.
no.
Oh.
No, we're screwed.
Was there anything else you wanna leave everyone with? A little quote, a book, a fun idea, a craft, anything? A word of
We should
wisdom?
brainstorm this ahead of time.
I just thought of that
Um,
question, so
okay. Good. I'll say every hour is happy hour when you're skiing.
Woo!
Woo woo. And buy my merch.
Woo! And tell everyone where they can find you on every platform.
Oh, yes. It's Grace_Donner, Donner on everything, I think. YouTube might be just Grace Donner. I don't really know how that works, actually. No, maybe it's underscore. Grace_Donner.
Yay! Well, Grace, thank you so much for coming on. This is so fun.
Thank you
First
for having
podcast.
me. Yeah, my first podcast ever.
Woo! And we will catch you guys next week. All right, and that is a wrap on this week's episode. I hope y'all loved it so much. I could literally have talked to her for hours. I feel like we were just on FaceTime, but I hope y'all enjoyed it. She is such a gem, and definitely follow her on all the things as she continues. And I think by the time this comes out, she's in Europe, so I'm sure fun content will come out of that. Follow us at Raw Intentions Podcast on Instagram. You can subscribe to us anywhere you get podcasts, and we drop new episodes every single Thursday. So if you're a new listener, we've got lots of episodes in the bank that you can go listen to, and then now you have to be a listener forever. Subscribe and follow us and like us and rate us and review us. All the things that people tell you to do, it really does help as, try to continue to grow. Thank you so much for listening. I feel like I've already said that. So appreciate you all. Have a fabulous weekend, and I will talk to y'all next week.